this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
You know how it's never really about where you're going, it's about who you're going with? The right people can turn any drive into a great memory. That's something Toyota really believes. They design vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who make plans happen and bring everyone together. Inside, everything's built with passengers in mind. Comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that actually works so everyone can relax and enjoy the ride. There's room for the people, room for the stuff, and room for the moments that happen along the way. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at Toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people. This message is brought to you by Apple Card. It's a great time to apply for an Apple Card. You'll love earning unlimited daily cash on every purchase. That includes 3% daily cash when you buy the latest iPhone, AirPods, and Apple Watch at Apple. Through this special referral offer, when you get a new Apple Card, you can earn bonus daily cash. To qualify, you must apply at apple.co/getdailycash. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Offer may not be available elsewhere. Terms and limitations apply.
You're about to listen to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, which originally aired on YouTube. If you'd like to catch the show live this offseason, you can head to the Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LateRoundFF. We'll be live each Wednesday at noon Eastern. Without further ado, here's this week's episode.
Welcome in. It's the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. David Kitchen here alongside with JJ Zacharyson, a.k.a. CEO, a.k.a. the boss, a.k.a. the guy who you do not want to challenge on X. Right, JJ?
Apparently, I mean, I don't know. There was someone today wanted to play in a dynasty league with me because they got mad about my it was a thread that I don't know how you could really get mad at. It was just me giving my take on analytics and prospecting via numbers and some things that I've seen people kind of in my opinion, because anything that you do when you're giving advice or you're talking about a topic and you're trying you're saying, I think that this is the better way to maybe do it. And then at the very end, I even said I don't have all the answers, so I don't know why people get mad at it. I'm just sharing thoughts, in the end. But then so every once in a while, people get mad at objective thoughts like that.
It wasn't just the mad part. It was the way they didn't want to play with you in a dynasty league. Exactly. The exact words were, it was like I challenge you to a duel. I challenge your model to a game of dynasty.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hilarious. And then I said something along the lines of I essentially said, no, I'm too scared was my response. I don't know, man. I get a lot of people that challenge me to fantasy all the time. They're like, oh, you must suck. You must be terrible because I disagree with this take that you have. And then they challenge me. I'm like, bro, I don't want to play with a random person on the internet who only is just angry. There's literally no upside for me to play with you. I want to play with people that I enjoy playing with, that I like, unless there's, a public league or something where I can, make some money. I don't need to waste my time in a dynasty league with some random dude on the internet. That sounds like one of the most miserable things I could possibly do with my time.
All right. We have a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be a fun show. The meat, depending, I guess, on what your appetite is the 4 biggest NFL combine takeaways. Yeah. But we also have all sorts of stuff that we'll be talking. And just a reminder, the prospect guide pre-order comes out. And Thomas Hull, again, this is an interactive show. We get down and nerdy. Leave your comments during the show, after the show. Subscribe, all that good stuff. But it says the prospect guy looks like the center dude, who is Eli Stowers, actually, is wearing a bikini top and now I can't unsee it. Now I'm gonna have to go.
This is why people need to watch on YouTube, because there's an image. Which, by the way, Mr. Kitchen created the image.
I did, and so now I'm gonna have to go back and recreate, because now I can't unsee it. It looks like Eli Sowers is wearing a bikini, like a coconut shell bikini.
Yeah, is that who that is? I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
of course, you put him front and center.
I put him in the back. I put Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson in the front.
Yeah,
him in the back. But this was before the combine even happened, JJ.
I get it. Look, he's good.
I just say,
okay? We have a good prospect from Vandy, everybody. Yeah, congrats, Kitchen.
Yeah, and not only Diego Pavia, like you're mentioning, but also
yeah, that's who I'm mentioning. The 5'4" quarterback who has an attitude problem is definitely who I've been mentioning there.
He does not have an attitude problem. The guy posts a few things on social media after he did not win the Heisman, and everyone wants to.
Yeah, and then he went and he made the joke at the interview at the combine about how Johnny Manziel, or maybe not, but like how he was modeling his behavior off of Johnny Manziel. Great idea.
I would just say probably don't say that.
Just don't
Johnny
say
Manziel
it. Just don't say it. Anyone who goes there and then says that, you have to question their ability to filter information, and to have a filter in general.
Gosh, Thomas is on fire. He said 5'4". He has an altitude problem.
How tall,
he is 5'10".
How tall? 5'10" was his official.
5'10" was his official measurement. Okay. So he's Kyler's height. We'll talk about Kyler also in a second, but go to lateround.com and make sure that you are pre-ordering the prospect guide. It's gonna be great.
I'm excited for it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Also join the Patreon and get into the Dynasty chat, the main chat, see who's picking on JJ. That's also fun. And then we also like to give just a shout out to our sponsors. DraftKings, they've got the early best ball going on over there, DraftKings.com. We'll have a link and the terms and conditions in the description. But I just want to say, this early best ball is like, if you are into if you're watching this show, you are in the demographic of early best ball.
Yeah. Because
you love like the prospect stuff, the dynasty stuff. I think dynasty stuff kind of ties in a little bit to early best ball, JJ. That's my theory. So you're modeled to a game of early best ball.
I think that right now the biggest edge that you can have in any format, but specifically best ball, is knowing where these prospects are likely to go in the draft, because this is the time of year. There's like a month-long period where things are not settled at all. Like you had Dane Brugler come out today, who's one of the best in the biz, with a mock draft, and Omar Cooper was 21st overall to the Steelers. Omar Cooper was ahead of Jordan Tyson in his mock because Jordan Tyson has the medicals.
Yeah.
And so if based on ADP and where people generally see these guys, like NFL mock draft database is a really good source. Obviously that gets fed into the ZAP model. And so the ZAP model and the prospect guide will give you a score to give you a general idea up until draft time of how good these players are. But I do think that it's a really good time to kind of extract a lot of value with some of these rookies, because there's some guys who just are not going to go day two that get boosted up. And then there's a lot of running backs that might not go day two that people are a little bit more concrete about when they probably shouldn't be. And then wide receiver, we're going to see a lot of day two wide receivers this year. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. So again, and we'll have some mock drafts later, or not mock drafts. We'll have some actual drafts on stream later for the early best ball drafts, but get in there, promo code late round. And again, we'll put the link and terms and conditions in the description, but we appreciate DraftKings for helping to sponsor this show, JJ. And I will just say, I'm not going to put too much emphasis on this, but someone said that Jambata says Kitchen feels about Pavia the way JJ felt about Kenny Pickett. Do you think that's true, JJ?
Yeah, probably. But Kenny Pickett at least was a first round pick. Well, should he have been? That's another question.
See, that's the thing, is Pavia is never a first round pick. He wasn't a highly regarded prospect. He he's always playing that dog role. He's got that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, he
that's
definitely plays that on off the field as well.
One time. That was it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens throughout his career.
If you watch him though on the field, I can't believe I'm actually defending Diego Pavia. I can't actually, but if you watch him on the field like I did, he never complains. He's not a diva. He doesn't flop. He doesn't yell at people. He's a great teammate. We love you, Diego. All right. With that being said, JJ, let's get on to it.
Today's fantasy news.
All right, JJ. Last week was Combine week, so let's chat because I know that you have some thoughts about Combine week, and obviously there were some winners, there were some losers. You can listen to the podcast for some of that stuff, but I just wanted to get your overall general thoughts about last week's Combine.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll be talking about some of the bigger takeaways as the main event today on the show. But I would say my overall just stance with it's not that much different than most things that I feel about when it comes to analysis and stuff in the football space is that people just take things so far. Like, can we just not go to such extremes with some of this stuff, And there's a lot of straw man arguments that go on during Combine week where, people on the film side, this is more so for the fantasy space because the majority of draft analysts in real football are doing it strictly by what they're watching. And that's fine. They have stuff, they have different things that they're solving and they're doing more than just, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. But within the fantasy space, film-based people are like, well, analytics can't capture this. So why are you blah, blah, blah. And then the other side, analytics people are like, well, film can't blah, blah. And it's like, guys, you need both. It's fine. Do what my general stance with anything analysis based, and this obviously just plays in the Combine because people are feeding this data directly into their analysis. But my thing with anything analysis based is that I think that any person can bring something to the table, right? As long as that thing that you're bringing to the table is the thing that that you can do well and that you're good at, right? You can learn, you can get better at other things, but I'm not going to sit on the podcast and talk about someone's technique the same way that a Matt Waldman would. Similarly, he's not going to hop on his podcast and talk about, the data points the way that I would, right? And I think that's what the Combine often shows us. There's a lot of people that are making these assumptions about certain data points and about what this means and what this means. And it's like, guys, I don't want to say stay in your lane because I'm not a stay in your lane kind of like that's not my general philosophy. My general philosophy is take a step back, gather your thoughts, and have a more cohesive thought before you just go spouting off a bunch of, garbage about making assumptions about what another side might be saying. Just do your work. Do your analysis that that you can do that you're good at. And unfortunately, Combine week brings that out in people a lot. But overall, I thought that it was an interesting Combine that we will definitely be digging into during the main event.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk trades now. And I'm actually going to put a new trade on there that just happened since we started recording. But first, let's just go ahead and get to the breaking news.
Yeah.
Chiefs trade Trent McDuffie, who's a cornerback, to the Rams for 4 picks, including number 29 overall.
Yeah.
This could be fantasy relevant, JJ.
Yeah. I mean, it could. It could
not be, but it could also be. People have talked about the Chiefs getting some offensive weapons later in the first round.
Yeah, I think that this tells us that they're trying to be flexible. I mean, realistically, from a Chiefs perspective, they can be flexible at wide receiver now because there's going to be a lot of guys that are fringe round 1, early round 2. We saw that a couple years ago in the draft, when Xavier Legette and Ricky Pearsall went at the end of the draft, end of the first round, and then Ladd McConkey, early second round. I think we're going to get a lot of that this year, top 50 picks. We could see a lot of wide receivers. So that, from that perspective, from a fantasy spin perspective, I do think that that's a thing. You got to remember the Rams on their side, they have the Falcons first round pick from that trade that they did last year. So they have the 13th, I think it's the 13th overall pick, the Rams do. So the Rams are probably thinking, okay, we're in a win now. type situation. I personally think the Rams are like, if I were to power rank teams right now for next year, I'd probably put LA number one in terms of like most likely to win the Super Bowl next year. I think Seattle probably has the best odds just because what they just did, but the Rams have a pretty complete team. And so they fixed an issue that they had a problem with, which is in the secondary. So I understand it from their perspective too. So overall, probably an okay trade. I'm not a cornerback expert, so again, I don't want to say things that I haven't researched and talked through. But
no, I think it's more along the lines of the Rams do not get a late round pick, but the Chiefs do. So it's for fantasy purposes. Yeah. I want to see the Chiefs get an offensive weapon later on in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this at least puts that more on the table that they would do that. Yeah,
yeah, especially, and then you have. The restructuring some contracts. So we'll talk about rumors in a second. Cause I did, Matthew Berry had his list of rumors that came out, and one to the Chiefs was interesting. All right. But right now though, talking about another running back that did get traded to the Texans, David Montgomery. Welcome to the Houston Texans. This feels like a win-win situation for everyone, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, not for Woody Marks, but although here's
I saw you say it wasn't the worst thing for Woody Marks.
It's not the worst thing for Woody Marks because we were assuming that Houston was going to get somebody, and I would argue that David Montgomery, he's now on the wrong side of the age apex for running backs from a production standpoint. I didn't think he was necessarily as good last year. There are other players out there like. If I'm the Texans, I'm not necessarily doing that deal if I think that I can get, a more replacement level, like a Tyler Algier or something in free agency. If I feel more confident in that, I mean, I don't think that there's that much of a difference, if at all, between those two players. Maybe that's a hot take and someone's going to get mad, but I understand why Detroit moved on from Montgomery. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, like, everyone's going to project and look at splits of Gibbs with and without Montgomery. The one thing that we have to keep in mind in situations like this, which Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 2 pick, whatever. Like, that's fine. If you want to go Gibbs or Bijan, I'm not going to argue either way, especially here in early March. But the thing that you have to remember with splits like that is that if David Montgomery is out for a 2-week period, just one game, or, even a 3-week period, the Lions aren't necessarily going to get reinforcements in that scenario because they can say, okay, we'll just ride Jahmyr Gibbs in this 2-week window, this 1-week window, and just roll with him as our primary back. But the difference is now there's not going to be that David Montgomery there. Sure, they're going to backfill and get somebody, right? I don't know who that's going to be because I don't think that this running back class is very strong, right? So if it is a Jadarian Price or something, if they want to spend a day 2 pick on Price, I've voiced my opinion on Price already. Like that's a win for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think regardless, it's going to be a general win for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I don't think that we should just project Gibbs to be a 27 point per game kind of player. Should he be a top, like I know that I'm really arguing against something that like doesn't even need to be argued because he's going to be a top 2 pick regardless. So, if our projection,
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is good too.
It's not that big of a deal, but I do think that we have to be careful about extrapolating that because we don't know exactly how all of that will go down. I do think though that, with Gibbs, like this was going to likely happen with David Montgomery. Obviously they split stuff at the goal line in the past. And so that's something that's not insignificant, and a rookie in particular wouldn't be able to, or wouldn't take on that kind of role. If they go out and get an Algier, then things are different, Yeah. So it's a win for Gibbs overall, but let's just not get like too carried away with what's going on here,
My prediction is that there's going to be another Alabama running back in that backfield.
Yeah, like if they get Brian Robinson, is that what you're talking about?
No. A younger version of Brian Robinson, maybe Jam Miller. I think they could draft him later on in the draft.
I think Brian Robinson makes much sense.
Same archetype as far as like a kind of a bruiser type back. Algier, just these I guess that was the thing for Woody Marks is we talked about on the show, have never seen a running back be hurt go to the tent as much as he did. He had like frequent flyer miles to the tent, and he's not like a between the tackles.
That's not what he does. Go read last year's profile in the prospect guide of Woody Marks, and it said the model likes him. He's a good receiving profile. But with that being said, like this is not someone who projects to be a between the tackles kind of runner. Yeah. And he wasn't that effective this past year. And, they are replacing him already from the standpoint of he's not going to see the same workload as he did last season. And look, this is exactly why, just to use this as an example, what I've been talking about with the ZAP model being more predictive of year 2 to 4 success than year 1 PPR points per game is because these day 3 running backs who just happen to walk into some work because there's not a lot going on in the depth chart, they're often not very sustainable. It's very rare for them to get production year in and year out and really, really hit. Like Bucky Irving, who, obviously didn't even do that much last year, but Bucky Irving or Chase Brown, like those guys are rarities. Like it's not a common occurrence for those players to pop up. Usually those players will end up, getting replaced.
Okay. Speaking of this trade, there was rumors that another team tried to jump in to complete this trade. And Greg Rosenthal talked about it, and then Benjamin Albright. This was in the news and rumors channel of our Discord, but you saw who it was, right, JJ?
Oh, I'm assuming if Albright's involved is Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know, man. I've been talking like the RJ Harvey
beating the drum.
Yeah. I mean, I already feel like I read that right, so that's good. Earlier this offseason with RJ Harvey. I'm not going to go out and shout from the rooftops because nothing's done yet, / that's not what I do. But yeah, I mean, if you have there's other stuff going on right now with the Giants backfield, right?
Kenneth
a
Walker.
lot. They're talking Kenneth Walker, Jeremiah Love. This isn't, in these situations we can choose to ignore, right? We can say, oh, that's not rational to do that. This is a brand new coaching staff, you guys. We have no idea what they generally think. And not only that, John Harbaugh is an old school kind of coach and has an older school mindset, not with everything, but he's going to, invest in safety and linebacker and stuff when newer age teams are more cornerback and edge and stuff like that. Right. And so with Harbaugh there, anything's possible. Genuinely anything's possible. Scadaboo coming off that injury, that's worrisome, with all these rumors. I think those guys are, if you can get something significant for them, if you could just laterally move based on what you spent last year, I'm not saying get an early second rounder for those guys this year because that's way less valuable in this year's class than last year's, but just laterally move Scadaboo and RJ Harvey in Dynasty. I don't think that's a bad idea. Definitely RJ Harvey. I mean, at this point, if you can find someone out there that still believes that RJ Harvey's a bell cow back, which doesn't even exist very often in Sean Payton's offenses, then go for it. But I'm worried about Cam Scadaboo too. And now if I'm running a team, no chance I do that with Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy, but it's just the way that teams think.
To Eli's point in the chat, I saw someone say, I would like to think that they wouldn't add a Kenneth Walker when they had Scadaboo, but then again, this is the same team that just hired Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator. So
I do want to go back to my take, Kitchen, about Mike McCarthy versus John Harbaugh and how I don't know if it's so significant of a delta as people think. Genuinely, I'm not saying either's going to go south. They're not I'm more inspired by the younger, unproven coaches, generally speaking.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get to Kyler news in a second. I do want to address the chat though. There's been multiple comments about my hair. Someone says, "Oh, Kitchen has hair," and then in parentheses, somewhat. Someone said emphasis on the somewhat. Darth Carter just got here, new haircut or no hat.
Your hairline's not that bad.
I did get a haircut. My hairline's always been like this. It's just making a run for the back of my head. So it is what it is. I'm no Denny Carter. I get it. But,
are you a people also think that my hairline is going back? Guys, I just have a giant forehead and I've always had a giant forehead. Okay, this is the same.
Hairline's not going back.
I've had the same hairline since I was 12. Okay, this is just the way that my forehead is. Okay, my brother has a big forehead. I have a big forehead. It's a genetic thing. So deal with it.
We don't have any backwards hats on, and people don't know how to deal with that. Let's get on to the Kyler news, though, from yesterday, released from the Cardinals. Not a big surprise here, but it is possibly going to make things fun, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly am shocked. Here's my take. I think that NFL teams see Kyler Murray as better than what the masses do, right? Like, I would not be surprised if NFL teams are sitting there and they're like, what is Arizona doing right now? Because in my opinion, I get it to a degree. And I mean, they're still paying this year for Kyler, but like, I get it to a degree. You have a new coaching staff. You want to start fresh. You need a change. That's fine. But man, I will be very, I had Kyler as a buy because he was like QB. He was low 20s from a dynasty standpoint.
Yeah.
To start the offseason. I don't know where he's at right now. But if Kyler goes literally almost anywhere, because that team is going to need a quarterback, he's going to more than likely be a starter somewhere the next year, right? And if it's like Minnesota,
that's the team that everyone's talking about right now.
If it's Minnesota, that is incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting.
Yeah, it would be fun.
I mean, he would be an easy late round pick if it's Minnesota.
They said KOC has to sign off on that, but there's Geno, there's Kyler, there's Ty Simpson as a possibility.
I just think Kyler Murray is easily a tier above what else is out there.
Yes.
And maybe that's just me being blind and stupid, but I genuinely think that Kyler, if you look at EPA per drop back, if you look at total EPA, whatever you want to look at, Kyler is not that bad of a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I would take, I think it's rational and reasonable to say that I would rather have Kyler Murray than Malik Willis. Now, does Malik Willis have a more like untapped ceiling that we haven't really necessarily seen? And who knows? Sure. You can make that argument just because, we're basing this off of a very small sample size with Malik Willis. That's why I understand to a degree why a team like Arizona might want to go down that path. But if you're talking about like median outcome here, and there's also the reclamation project angle that a lot of teams might want to try to duplicate after what they saw with Seattle.
Yeah.
I think Kyler Murray is a pretty attractive candidate there. I know that people will make the off the field jokes, the Call of Duty jokes, but I still think Kyler's a pretty good quarterback.
All right, let's get to the franchise tags. So we kind of knew that George Pickens was going to be tagged. He was last week since the show. Breece Hall tagged earlier this week. F's in the chat for Breece Hall owners. But Danny Dimes tagged, and that's kind of big as far as the Colts landscape and landing spot for Alec Pierce.
Okay, two things. Number one, someone says that Kyler Eloso in chat says Kyler this offseason has the same vibes as Fields post Bears. Kyler Murray was so much better of a passer throughout his career than Justin Fields was. It's not even close. Justin Fields is a better rusher, but Kyler Murray is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. Second, Danny Dimes coming off of an Achilles. I don't think we can confidently say he is definitely better than Kyler Murray. That's where I'm like, what is exactly is Indy, like, what's the angle here?
Yeah.
If they could hypothetically go that other route. I'll just say that. People are going to comment for sure on this show saying that I'm out of my mind about Kyler Murray. And I get it. I'm not saying that he's a top even 15 quarterback necessarily in the league, but is he one of the best 32 quarterbacks on earth? Probably. I don't think that's that irrational to say. So that's okay. Let's finish that take on Kyler. It's all done. Breece Hall is trapped and it sucks. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I don't think that we're going to see incredible fantasy production. Let's see where his ADP lands though. But yeah, that's where I'm at with those.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about the Danny Dimes stuff?
No, my stance is just that I think it's risky because of the Achilles and Kyler being out there.
Yeah. Alec Pierce, who was supposed to be on the late round show.
He was on, got stuck in traffic.
Yeah. Was was on with Kay Adams at the Up and Adams show this morning. Said, I love Indy, but at some point I've kind of earned the right to explore free agency. We'll see what's out there.
Look, if I'm Alec Pierce, I'm getting my bag. He's like crazy because he spiked last year. His value's at an all-time high right now. And this isn't any shade to him because I think that he's very, very good at what he does. One of the best like contested catch down the field guys in the league. And his athleticism is really kind of translating at this point. But I don't, like one of the big arguments for him is that like he could be more of a higher volume receiver in another offense. And, I don't know. I don't know for sure if that's the case. And so if he can get that bag this year, he should get that bag this year and just go after it. And I don't know if Indy's going to be like, usually when players stay with their team, they don't get the same kind of deal that they could get if they really, really tested the market.
All right, let's get to rumor time. Shout out to Matthew Berry and his rumors column. You mentioned it, JJ. You retweeted. I feel the same way. I just enjoy reading it, even if none of the rumors happen.
It's a good article.
It's still fun, and it's still fun to think about, and that's kind of what we're doing. The same thing with the draft. We're thinking about teams that have of players, but some interesting rumors is Wan'Dale Robinson getting a lot of steam to the Titans,
which is not surprising because they have Dable,
right? Which would be fun. Also, you had the whole Kyler Murray thing to the Vikings, but Derek Carr,
please,
another name to the
look. Derek Carr. It's very so. I don't know if people realize this or know this, but when I was at Number Fire, when I first started my career, this is back in 2012. 2013. I started at Number Fire. For 2 years, we were doing, and for longer than that even, but for the 2 years before we were acquired by FanDuel, we were doing a ton of content that was just real football based because expected point models weren't like everywhere. And we had an expected points model, right?
Yeah.
And so we had net expected points. And so we would write a lot of content that oftentimes was controversial because it was based on expected points, which at the time was very new, very fresh. Now it's everywhere, right? And everyone even knows what EPA is. But back then we would do real football content, not just fantasy football content. And I wrote an article after Derek Carr's rookie season that said, is Derek Carr really the future for the Raiders? And I've never gotten more hate for any piece of content. I mean, I probably have, but back then I was a lot more fragile than I am today. Yeah. And so there were a lot of Raiders fans that just came at me, like just relentlessly. And then it went from this like weird journey for Carr where he was overrated, in my opinion, to start his career. And then he became kind of underrated for a little bit. And so I would even argue towards the end of his career, he was still a little bit underrated, but I don't want to go through that. Like, I don't want to go through the unretiring and, what is he, what kind of court? Like, it's just a lot. I'd much rather see like a Kyler go to Minnesota and let JJ McCarthy, sit on the bench.
Yeah. So for receivers for next week, it's going to be fun because you've got Mike Evans, DJ Moore, possibly, and I feel like I'm missing somebody else. Mike Evans, DJ Moore,
Alec Pierce.
There you go. We mentioned Wan'Dale, but the running back position, even better. Chiefs looking at a running back in the area of $8 million annually. Also, Broncos looking to make a splash. These are all from, let's see. There's another column today, the CBS column, Jonathan Jones's column. Yeah. And then you also have, I think Matthew was talking about Kenneth Walker. You got ETN, possibly to the Chiefs.
ETN, the funny thing is that ETN's market value, if you go to a place like SpotRack or some of these like places that, have or Spot, how do you pronounce that? SpotTrack?
Yeah. I always accidentally say Sport Rack.
Yeah. Because I've never listened to anyone actually say it out loud. It's one of those things. Another thing that people can yell at me in the comments for. But no, Travis, like there was the report that they were going to spend, like you said, $8 million $8 million a year on a running back, and Travis Etienne's market value is around $7 million there. Like it just feels like Travis Etienne's going to be a Chief.
Yes, but you also have Eli said future Chief Rico Dowdle. You've got Algier. Like the running back market is going to be just totally shaken up.
Someone's saying it's Spotrac.
Spotrac. Okay.
Yeah.
What does the SPO stand for?
I don't know. Probably something. Sports. Sport
Eli,
tracking.
Tell us where the SPO is. All right.
Makes a lot more sense, but we never said it out loud before until now.
Okay, that does it for the news and the rumors. The rumors are just fun. Usually we don't have a lot of rumors on here. It's just a fun piece. So with that, let's go from the fun stuff to the nerdy stuff.
Hey, it's Carissa Thompson. Everything these days is fighting for your attention. Work, family, social media, and it makes it tough to figure out what should really come first. But here's something that absolutely deserves to be at the top of your list: your breast health. Breast cancer is the second most common cancer and the second leading cause of cancer death among women in the United States. And the rates are still rising. More women under 50 are being diagnosed too. But here's a stat that really hits home. 1 in 2 women who qualify for annual breast screenings aren't getting them. That's half. And yet, when breast cancer is caught early, the survival rate is over 99%, nearly 100% for stage 1 before it spreads. If you're 40 or older, you should be getting screened every year. And if you're under 40, it is never too early to understand your risk. So come on now, pay the girls some attention. Head to yourattentionplease.com to learn your breast cancer risk and what screenings you might need. Trust me, your future self will thank you. Brought to you by Novartis.
You know how it's never really about where you're going? It's about who you're going with. Like, the destination could be totally average, but if the right people are there, it becomes a great memory. Toyota really gets that. Toyota designs vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who bring everyone together and somehow make the drive part of the fun. There's room for all the stuff that comes with togetherness: luggage, golf clubs, camping gear, plus comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that lets everyone relax. And Toyota's lineup makes it easy to find your match. The RAV4 is perfect for everyday adventures. The Grand Highlander brings serious space for up to 8, with generous legroom and expansive cargo space. The Highlander also has space for up to 8. It's ready for big moments and spontaneous ones, balancing style and flexibility. And the Sienna is built for everyday life: carpools, road trips, snacks, spills. And it even has a built-in vacuum for when things get a little too messy. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people.
Today's data.
We've got speed scores for running back. People are asking for wide receiver speed scores. I don't mess with that because I don't care about wide receiver 40 times, but I do care about running back 40 times to a degree. Mentioned this on the show earlier this week. Speed score is an input in the ZAP model, but let's not get carried away. Like Mike Washington, as I said on the show, if he ran a 4.43 compared to a 4.33, I think his ZAP score goes down by like half a point. Like it's not an overly significant, input, but I do think it's going to change his draft capital. I think Mike Washington was likely a day 3 guy, and now there's a chance that he's a day 2 guy, which in this class matters because there's not a lot of good running back talent in general. So you can see on the screen, there's only 10 guys that ran this year, but Mike Washington had the best speed score, second best in the models database behind only Keith Marshall. Jeremiah Loves was really good. Adam Randall, he ran a 4.5 at 232 pounds, which is really solid. Seth McGowan, I talked about him on the show. And then on the other side, you have Emmett Johnson, who I also talked about, 93.4 speed score, which I don't think disqualifies him. It's not the biggest deal in the world because that's not really his game. He's more of I think he's still a pretty complete back. And I still think there's a very real chance that he's still the model's RB2 after all of this. Like still. Robert Henry didn't have a very good speed score at 93.9. Jadarian Price, I think, was one of the more disappointing ones because he doesn't have that backbone from a production standpoint. And then he only ran a 4.49, which, puts him under the 100 mark, barely under the 100 mark in speed score. It's like, I just have a hard time with Price, man. Like where is it's just all projection, it's all going to be based on draft capital. I get he played with Jeremiah Love, but that's a very volatile profile to buy into, like it could go in so many different directions. But yeah, I mean, if you want to screenshot this, whatever, it's on Twitter as well. these are the speed scores of the 2026 running back class.
Sounds good, JJ. Let's get on to the main event, which is the 4 biggest takeaways from the NFL Combine.
The late round main event.
All right, starting with number 4.
Yeah, look, we've seen a lot of, I'm sure you've seen a lot of tweets and probably even heard podcasts about how all of these players like tested really well. But I think that you have to understand the selection bias that's kind of going on here, where if only a particular subset of people are like actually participating in these drills, more than likely there's a reason as to why they're testing. So only 10 running backs, like I said, ran the 40. Only one of them did the 3-cone, which was Emmett Johnson. And it's weird because he did it at a pretty slow, he was like a 25th percentile 3-cone guy, and people are dinging him for doing it. It's like, okay, but he did it, like at some point. And I think Brugler was saying this a little bit. I was listening to their show and their recap on a walk the other day. But Brugler was mentioning that like teams still are teams are crediting the players who actually go out and do these drills and do these things at the combine because it's showing their competitiveness. Like he mentioned in particular, like Mekhi Lemon is sitting up there on the podium being like, oh, I'll compete with anyone. And then he doesn't go and compete. There's, of course, reasons for it. Like if you're locked into the top half of the first round, you feel good about it. You don't want to ruin that opportunity. Like Carnell Tate, not that he ruined it. He should still go in the same range. But, Carnell Tate, people are now like, oh, well.
That was a weird one, man. That was odd.
But that's why I'm saying like from a player's perspective, I get all of that. And I understand why they wouldn't necessarily test. But it's just it's a changing landscape. A lot of these guys just end up running at their pro day, and they're doing it because they're not testing at the combine because it's a short turnaround time, postseason and stuff. Maybe they're not ready. But also they can get some home cooking at the pro day and maybe look a little bit better. Say what you want, but it's what happens historically. And so it might be more beneficial for them to be in a more familiar environment to do all of these things. And it's not as stressful necessarily because they're not on the, nationwide stage at that moment. And so I understand why that's all happening. Just know that it is happening. And since it is happening, that means that the players who are testing are likely athletic. They're likely doing so because they know that they're going to test well. And so as a result of that, we have to take that with a grain of salt when we sit here and we say, hey, this is the most athletic wide receiver class, or the running backs were really athletic at this combine. It's like, we didn't see the full sample. The wide receivers were fast. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was a very, very fast wide receiver class. But there's a lot of stuff going on here that is beyond just that. And the one note that I added on here, first off, people ask me all the time for pro day adjustments. I add 0.05 to everyone's 40 time. And I say everyone, I'm just talking about, I guess, tight end now too, but that's for running back because I don't care about 40s for wide receivers. So I add 0.05. So if a guy think Cam Scattaboo, didn't have a great speed score because I added that 0.05, and others were like, no, it was like a 100 speed score. It's like, no, it was more like a 92, 93 type speed score. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But also, I do think that this is one of those instances where, you hear myself and others talk about modeling this stuff all the time, or, the kind of metrics that we're digging into. This is one of those instances where we have to remind ourselves that it's really important to focus on the metrics that we can really control in our, modeling environment. And so if you're grabbing player grades from someone else's film analysis, make sure that someone else is sticking to the same rubric or is still doing that analysis, because think about 3 years from now, if they retire or something, or if something like they get let go and they're not doing that anymore, that can change and alter what your model is really saying. And the same thing goes with certain data that's out there that people take from, and they probably shouldn't be taking from, in my opinion, just based on the legality side of it. But it's why a lot of the stuff that goes into my model might seem like basic numbers from the standpoint of like, it's receiving yards per team pass attempt, or, reception share at running back. Part of that is making sure that I'm getting data and inputs that are long lasting, that don't shift and change based on what other people dictate, and that goes with the combine, because things are changing with the combine. And if you're heavily, heavily influenced by what those numbers are saying with the changing landscape, it can really change the way that you're prospecting these players too.
All right. Number 3, you're not too high on the RB2.
No, it's Jeremiah Love and the rest at this point. I mean, someone will emerge because I'm going to have to make rankings eventually, and we're going to see draft capital once the NFL draft hits. But look, I have all of the potential RB2s, by draft capital and stuff listed right now. Yeah. And I can easily knock any of them. Jadarian Price, horrible production profile. He didn't test exceptionally well. Mike Washington, he's an athlete, but that didn't always show up in the production. Like, he didn't have a very good explosive run rate in college, despite, being a 4.33 guy. Emmett Johnson, not a crazy athlete. Great production profile, but not a crazy athlete. Jonah Coleman, I'm interested in Jonah Coleman. I think he's probably my RB2, but I want to see where projected draft capital goes with him because he didn't test. We don't know how athletic he is, but he is getting like a Doug Martin comp, rest in peace, in the model for Coleman. Nick Singleton, I think there's a chance that I would have had Nick Singleton as the RB2 had he not gotten hurt at the Senior Bowl. Because he's the kind of archetype that I definitely fall for. I mean, it's been both good and bad. Don't get me, I'm not getting it all right, but I'm not getting it wrong either. But it's this big-bodied, athletic receiving back. Like, he can do stuff as a receiver out of the backfield. You have Katron Allen, who he split the backfield with, who's the most decorated rusher in Penn State history from a volume standpoint, but he's more one-dimensional. And we didn't get testing from Allen either. So, like, there's red flags to both Penn State guys too. I'm just saying that, did I spell Singleton wrong there?
It's okay. I got you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think Singleton, had he not gotten hurt, would have been a way more intriguing prospect. He still is to me, because it's not he said that he thinks he might be able to test right before the draft, which is huge, because if we can get that input, if he runs a fast 40, which he would have run a fast 40, that's huge at his size, because he's not a small back either.
Yeah, this is why, I know we're not quite into dynasty talk, but it seems like originally, and this is almost staying with, if you have a top 6 pick in your rookie draft, you're going to be okay. Outside the top 6, you're going to have to do some homework or figure out your needs.
Well, let's go on to the number 2 item on this list.
Late first round rookie picks equals mid second rounders.
I think this year, where we're at right now, today, I think that the tail end of the first round, when you get into 10, 11, 12 in that range, it's not that far off from what we saw in previous years in the early to mid second round of rookie drafts. We're going to see hits out of nowhere. This wide receiver class, what was it? The 2019 class, I want to say, where it looked bad on paper, or not amazing on paper. And then we got some hits, like Terry McLaurin, I think, was in that class. But regardless, I think that we could be looking at a situation like that where there's going to be a consensus opinion from an ADP standpoint with the wide receivers, because there has to be, because that's what ADP is. Right. And so we'll get a consensus, but I think this is a year where it's not going to be uncommon, and it's actually you should do this, to stray away more heavily than usual from ADP. Whether it's the guys after Jeremiah Love, whether it's the wide receivers, even after, in my opinion, Casey Concepcion. If Omar Cooper goes a little bit higher, then he would firmly be, wide receiver 5 for me. I'm not a big Denzel Boston guy. I see the allure and the upside, but I think the production profile has some serious question marks. And so, once you get out of that top 4 wide receivers, it's just kind of there's a lot of dudes out there who could be pretty productive. And I think there's a lot of those players out there, as I talked about on the podcast. There's a lot of solid enough guys who, if they hit, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't think a lot of them are going to hit. It's just it's a winning by numbers kind of deal. There's just a lot of them. And so that's kind of how I feel about rookie drafts right now. If you have a top 7, top 8 pick, in Superflex, I think that you're okay enough, especially tight end premium, because you do have you have Stowers and Sadiq that you're going to throw in there, along with Mendoza from a Superflex standpoint. 3 or 4 wide receivers. You get Jeremiah Love. Okay, you're fine into the mid first round. It's just going to get really weird once you get to the late first round.
Yeah, if you have those early picks, it's just a matter of like choosing between those receivers. Who
that's going to be hard
big
too.
Decision point. Yeah, that's the big decision point.
Look, I'm not going to lie. This is going to be one of those rookie drafts where it's going to be really tough if you only have one team, one dynasty team, because you got to make that decision when I think there's going to be pretty clear tiers where you could, throw a dart and be like, yeah, I like Mekhi Lemon. No, I like Jordan Tyson. No, I like, I'm going to have Tyson at wide receiver 1 because I think the main reason Jordan Tyson is not going to be a top 10 pick is the medicals. And I don't want that to get in the way of who I think is a really good player. But I understand if you'd rather not go that route. And if you'd rather just go with a Carnell Tate or a Mekhi Lemon, it's a harder rookie draft, in my opinion, if you only have that one team.
Hey, it's Carissa Thompson. Everything these days is fighting for your attention, work, family, social media, and it makes it tough to figure out what should really come first. But here's something that absolutely deserves to be at the top of your list: your breast health. Breast cancer is the second most common cancer and the second leading cause of cancer death among women in the United States, and the rates are still rising. More women under 50 are being diagnosed too. But here's a stat that really hits home. 1 in 2 women who qualify for annual breast screenings aren't getting them. That's half. And yet, when breast cancer is caught early, the survival rate is over 99%, nearly 100% for stage 1 before it spreads. If you're 40 or older, you should be getting screened every year. And if you're under 40, it is never too early to understand your risk. So come on now, pay the girls some attention. Head to yourattentionplease.com to learn your breast cancer risk and what screenings you might need. Trust me, your future self will thank you. Brought to you by Novartis.
You know how it's never really about where you're going? It's about who you're going with. Like, the destination could be totally average, but if the right people are there, it becomes a great memory. Toyota really gets that. Toyota designs vehicles around real life and real people, the ones who bring everyone together and somehow make the drive part of the fun. There's room for all the stuff that comes with togetherness: luggage, golf clubs, camping gear, plus comfortable seating, smart layouts, and space that lets everyone relax. And Toyota's lineup makes it easy to find your match. The RAV4 is perfect for everyday adventures. The Grand Highlander brings serious space for up to 8, with generous legroom and expansive cargo space. The Highlander also has space for up to 8. It's ready for big moments and spontaneous ones, balancing style and flexibility. And the Sienna is built for everyday life: carpools, road trips, snacks, spills. And it even has a built-in vacuum for when things get a little too messy. Because when people are the destination, your ride is important. Learn more at toyota.com and find the vehicle that fits your people.
I'm not saying go join a bunch of dynasty leagues. I mean, you could. I wouldn't be against that.
I was about to say, if you did want to, you could always hop in Discord. There is a league finder channel, and people post in that as far as they're looking for someone to take over an orphan team or even start a league. So, I will say, when it comes to dynasty, this is why I'm a big advocate for best ball dynasties, because like you can like have your fun during the off season, right? And in season, you don't have to worry too much about it. So just go ahead and go start a premium super flex tight end premium best ball dynasty league. All right. Number 1, you put this wide receiver class is bound to be overdrafted.
Yeah. So I kind of alluded to it already. Like, I think there's a lot of guys, like a lot of players who are going to get decent draft capital. So I made this chart. I think this is going to explain it better than what I could just do on my own. So the chart looks at players since 2011. This is all in the Zap model database, who had breakout scores above 80, above 60, and above 40. So breakout scores above 80 are in the 94th percentile, which, by the way, the 2014 class, the one that has gone down in history as one of the best we've ever seen, we had 7 guys with breakout scores 80 or above, which is a 94th percentile breakout score. That's crazy. We had 13 guys that year who had breakout scores in the 82nd percentile or better, and then, which is a 60 or better score. And then breakout scores of 40 or more is the 51st percentile. So the numbers that I'm looking at here, you can break them down a lot of different ways. We're looking at the 94th percentile, the 82nd percentile, and the 51st percentile. it's all arbitrary. I just wanted to make a point about how the model is kind of viewing this class right now. The 2026 class has one player, Jordan Tyson, with a breakout score over 80, has 4 players with a breakout score over 60, and it has 17 guys with a breakout score over 40. Now, that 17 number seems large, but it's actually about 6 wide receivers lower than the average of what we've seen from 2011 through 2025. Breakout score, for those of you guys who might not know, is adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt. So it looks at receiving yards per team pass attempt in a given season. It adjusts that for the strength of schedule that player faced, and then it layers on this age component for that player. So it's age and schedule adjusted receiving yards per team pass attempt. It itself, breakout score, is about as predictive with top 100 wide receivers as draft capital itself. So if you were to just draft off of, if you knew that he was a top 100 pick, if you were to just draft off a breakout score, you would get a similar result as you would get if you just drafted off of draft capital. And obviously with the model is way more predictive than draft capital for top 100 picks because I'm adding in other factors to that. It's not that the model is not just breakout score. With that being said, when you look at the 80 plus breakout scores, we have 1 this year. We usually have around 3. When you look at 60 or more in breakouts, 60 plus breakout scores, we have 4 this year. We usually have over 8. So at all 3 levels, we have fewer players in those buckets for breakout scores this year than what we've had over the last 14 seasons. Now, if you look at the projected draft capital for these guys, this year, according to NFL Mock Draft Database, round 1 wide receivers were supposed to get 5, could even get more based on what Dane had published today. And then if you look at pick 33 to 100, we're looking at 10. So that's guys who are essentially day 2 picks. Both of those numbers are above the average from what we've seen over this time frame. So what I'm saying is we have players that are below the typical breakout score thresholds within these top 100 picks, or within this class. But then we have a lot of players going in the top 100 picks. So in my opinion, what we're seeing, this is just my opinion, I think the combine is going to influence a lot of what's going on here, where we had a very fast wide receiver class and teams fall in love with that when realistically, historically, over the last 15 seasons, we have seen speed have a negative correlation essentially to players who, I'm talking 4.4, sub 4.4 type speed, to those players at least performing well in fantasy football, which obviously is a proxy for how well they perform in the actual NFL. It's not a 1-to-1, but a player runs fast, he gets drafted a little bit higher. Teams fall in love with that. They get enamored. And then it's a really bad idea, which is another reason why Carnell Tate, you shouldn't be afraid of what's going on with Carnell Tate. If anything, first round picks, if they're going in the first round, it's telling you that those players are really, really talented, despite maybe not being a sub 4.5 guy. And that's what we're getting with Carnell Tate, that there's a lot of talent involved in his profile. So I think what we're going to see is this wide receiver class be overdrafted as a result of that. We're going to get guys that break out of this class. That's Chris Bell or whoever, choose your fighter, right? There's going to be a lot of decent players out there that have decent NFL careers because there's just a decent amount of them that will get good draft capital. But I do think objectively, when you look at this class compared to other ones in the past, it's just not that strong from a production standpoint. It's not that strong. Physical traits are the number 2. I mean, if you're just ranking production with physical traits, give me collegiate production all day long. It matters so much more than a player's physical traits.
The Carnell Tate thing is interesting because of just, again, the weird timing issues. But there was another Ohio State wide receiver, JJ, you probably know, who didn't exactly run a fast 40 time and ended up.
Are you talking about a historical?
Oh, I'm talking about last year's Super Bowl champion Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Oh,
he ran a 4.57.
I was like, who are you referring to in this draft class? Yeah, I mean, look, Tate. Here's the thing with Tate. He's a vertical threat, or he that's how he was deployed in college. I think he can win on all 3 levels, but he was a vertical threat and he ran slower. And the Schefter tweet was real. He definitely heard from teams that said, "Hey, he ran faster than this." But I said this on the show earlier this week. That's exactly why we adjust. If you look at all the time, Schefter actually I don't know if you saw the beef between him and Florio today. It was amazing.
Yes.
Like Florio wrote an article.
I think Schefter's exact words were just showing why you're wrong, like you always are. Maybe
something along those lines. It was amazing. Yeah. And so like Florio sends a tweet out that says, or an article that something along the lines of like, the Carnell Tate stuff is BS that Schefter was tweeting, because Schefter had tweeted earlier this week. I read it on the show how all of these scouts had faster times for Carnell Tate's 40. So then Schefter literally screenshotted, I don't know, like 8 different text messages that he got from scouts saying that they got like 4.46 and 4.47. The funny thing though, is that exactly what I talked about on the show is that when you adjust that for the hand time and you add that 0.05, you get Carnell Tate's laser, or, his combine time. And so this is exactly why, I'm adjusting, but it's also exactly why this stuff is just so insane that we're splitting hairs, between 0.05 seconds the way that we are, when that's not an uncommon thing to happen in general with hand times. It's just not, this is what we see. And it's just not a big deal for Carnell Tate. I'm not worried about that at all, despite the fact that he is a stretch vertically kind of wide receiver. My only fear would be, did a team bump him down their board a little bit? Probably not. I'm hoping not, because that would be stupid. That would be silly.
Draft night's still going to be fun though. Even if teams are overdrafting, part of the fun, and I only got to experience this last year, so I'm looking forward to year 2, is being in the chat with everyone and just seeing all the reactions. Yeah,
I will definitely be like, I think this year more than most, it's going to be a what are they doing? Like we got that a little bit with like, I was surprised Jalen Polk went where he went. Xavier Legette was the obvious one. I liked Ricky Pearsall pre-draft, but I liked Ricky Pearsall from the standpoint of being like a late second rounder, early third rounder, and him going at the end of the first was crazy and surprising. But I think we're going to get a lot of that, where it's just like, oh, I thought this guy was going to go, 70th overall, and he just went 45th overall, and then, maybe some guys will flip that, but I think we're going to see more so that happening, where if you look at NFL mock draft database, I think we're going to get, inflate that by like 10% where they're being drafted right now. Not the top guys, but like that next tier of players.
All right, JJ, final thoughts as we move on, as far as this draft class goes?
No, just listen to the podcast. We'll be talking about it a lot more. Next week, we're going to be talking about my favorite comps at running back. So that'll be fun.
All right, let's say goodbye. Again, I appreciate everyone for being in the chat and, whether it be commenting on my hair or the promo graphics that we have for the prospect guide. Thank you. And JJ, tell people why they should buy the prospect guide.
I mean, you can do what you want with your money. It's $15 right now. It'll be 20, in a couple weeks, but I can tell you that I've worked a lot on it and I put a lot into it, and I've worked with Brandon a lot on the tight end stuff. And, I don't put out products and analysis that I'm trying to just get out to make a buck. I want every piece of content that I do to be better than the previous one. And when I look back at the first, this is the 5th iteration of the prospect guide, which is crazy because I started this when I started Late Round Fantasy Football as a company. And when I look at the first iteration of the guide and I look at it now, I feel pretty prideful. Like the analysis is so much deeper. The models are so much better. There's just so much that I've learned over the years in doing this, and
colors.
The colors look so amazing. Yeah, of course. But no, I genuinely, I feel really good about the product itself. And like I said, I don't need to sit here and sell you guys. Like go check it out. Yes, I want you to check it out. I would love for you guys to check it out, but I understand not everyone can do that. And so I'm not going to force that upon you. I'm just letting you know that I've worked very, very hard on this prospect guide. And if you like the podcast content, if you like the content from today, if you like the way that I approach prospecting, there is no doubt you're going to like the prospect guide. There's no doubt in my mind, because that's what the prospect guide is. I'm pulling things from that whenever I'm giving this analysis. So check it all out, lateround.com.
Joanna said no tight end model analysis. Here's what I would say. Make sure you're signed up to the newsletter. It's free. And we literally had an email go out unveiling our new tight end model is the name of that email. And we had the combine results that mattered email that was sent out earlier this week. We have lots of stuff related to our models and the combine. Sign up for the newsletter.
And I'll say transparently, I said this on Perspectives last week. I'm not like my tight end work is going to be done over the next week / after the guide goes out, because Brandon is running point on a lot of the tight end analysis. I'm going to be reading and digging in than myself, especially with the top guys. But I'm not there yet. Like, I know the running back and wide receivers intimately at this point, because I've written profiles for every single guy that I still have to edit and look through and make sure that I'm, dotting my I's and crossing my T's. But I haven't gotten to all of the tight end stuff that I want to. And so I don't want to produce content yet on that when I'm not as well versed with that position as I am running back and wide receiver.
There you go. Shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings. DraftKings, your home for early best ball, $1 million in total prizes. You draft it, they crown it. And again, all the stuff we're talking about with rookies and free agents, the early best ball is the drafts that you're doing before the actual NFL draft. So you don't know some of these players where they're going to land. And that's what makes it fun. It's a mixture of dynasty and best ball. So we appreciate DraftKings. We appreciate you for watching the show, for liking, subscribing. And we'll see you next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Peace.
I'm Daniel Jeremiah.
And I am Greg Rosenthal.
I know that, Greg. We're teaming up on 40s and Free Agents, the podcast that owns the NFL offseason.
This is where teams are built. Free agency, the combine, pro days, trades. Every move matters.
From my draft boards and mock drafts
to my vaunted top 101 free agents and how rosters come together.
Quarterback movement,
surprise signings.
We'll tell you what it means and who really wins. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search 40s and Free Agents, and listen now.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.